revealed how one poor delivery girl changed a millionaire's life with a simple warning. Clara's heart raced as she pulled her dilapidated truck up the long driveway of a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. The air was crisp, the leaves painted in shades of fiery orange and crimson. She took a deep breath and forced a smile, even though her stomach was tight with worry. The delivery bag on the passenger seat was nearly empty. Her last few shifts had barely covered groceries for her mother and younger brother. As she approached the grand front door, flickers of awe crossed her mind. Inside lived Thomas, a man who owned more than she could ever dream of, yet she sensed a profound loneliness that seemed to cling to him like a shadow. Today, he stood at the door, dressed impeccably, but his face betrayed a weariness that caught her attention. "Delivery for Thomas Woodley," she announced cheerfully, masking the tightness in her chest. He took the package with a slight nod, his fingers brushing hers briefly. It was a moment of human connection in a world so often defined by wealth and isolation. "Thank you," he murmured, but there was a faraway look in his eyes. Clara couldn't shake the feeling that he was staring into a void, wondering when his happiness had slipped away. Taking a leap, she softened her tone. "You know, money can't buy respect or friendship, you know." Her words hung in the air, and she felt the weight of them reverberate around them. For a second, Thomas's brow furrowed. She watched the gears in his mind turn, a flicker of something: curiosity, regret, before his features returned to their neutral mask. Clara didn't expect much more from the interaction. After all, her life was a whirlwind of deliveries and responsibilities. Yet, she began to notice a subtle change in her routine. Day by day, she arrived at the mansion, and with each visit, Thomas opened the door just a little wider to her presence. But then life's chaos struck. Clara's mother fell ill, leaving Clara to shoulder the burden of bills and groceries. Her truck rattled over the potholes that led to their small home, the one they fought hard to keep together. Meanwhile, she learned that Thomas's sibling was in trouble, news that filled him with a rare, raw panic. His world was fractured, just like hers. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With the stakes higher than ever, Clara's warning echoed in Thomas's mind as he found himself questioning what he truly valued. Can a chance at friendship outweigh his need for control? For Clara, the decision felt monumental. Will she divert all her energy to save her family? Or will she trust that helping Thomas might lead to healing for both of them? As she wrestled with her choices, the warmth of her laughter and the strength of her resolve shone even brighter. Was this the moment that would shape their destinies forever? In that vast, conflicting sea of emotions, Clara stood at the brink, ready to leap into the unknown, leaving behind more than just a part of herself. Would they both find solace in the bonds they hadn't realized they were forging before time ran out? Clara woke up to the scent of burnt toast and the muffled sounds of her brother, Sam, shuffling around in the tiny kitchen. The sun barely peeked through the grimy windows, but she could feel the weight of the day pressing down already. Her mother had taken a turn for the worse last night, and Clara's heart sank at the thought of their dwindling finances. She needed to put on a brave face not just for her brother, but also to find a way to help her family. After a quick breakfast, Clara slid into her old truck and took a deep breath. Today felt different. As she drove, her mind wandered back to Thomas. His world of wealth was so distant from her reality, yet it had begun to feel familiar. With each interaction, she saw something in him that resonated with her struggles. A part of her hoped he wouldn't be just a fleeting presence in her chaotic life. He was a distraction and a reason to keep pushing forward. When she arrived at the mansion, Clara noticed leaves swirling in the breeze, a reminder of the changing seasons. She parked the truck, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. This time, as she approached the door, she felt a buzz of anticipation. Perhaps today, she would say more than just a few words of pleasantry. Thomas opened the door, his expression one of surprise. "Clara, you're here early," he said, the the tension around his eyes easing just a little. Figured I'd surprise you with the morning delivery, she joked, but there was a nervous flutter in her stomach. How is your sibling? A shadow crossed Thomas's face, and the usual lightness he carried was noticeably absent. Still in the hospital. It's complicated. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Clara's heart tugged at the sight of him. I'm really sorry, she said softly. The inclination to reach out, to comfort him, sparked within her. If you ever need to talk, I don't want to burden you with my issues, he cut in, almost defensively. You have enough on your plate. But we both know that strength comes from rather unexpected places, she replied, her voice firm. I've learned that sharing burdens can lighten the load. A flicker of realization crossed Thomas's eyes, almost as if he was seeing her anew. For the first time, Clara felt a shift. It was a tenuous connection, but it was there the glimmer of mutual understanding. Just then, Clara's phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the moment. It was a notification about her mother's medical bills. Panic surged as numbers flashed before her eyes. I need to go, she stammered, suddenly overwhelmed. I have to handle something. Thomas's brows knitted with concern. Clara, wait. Is there anything I can do to help? The question hung heavy in the air, and Clara hesitated. She needed help, but asking for it felt like letting her pride slip through her fingers. Just don't lose hope, she said finally, her voice rasping. Things will get better. As she drove home, the weight of Thomas's offer lingered in her chest. Could she really consider reaching out to him? Would letting someone in break the wall she had fought so hard to maintain? The sun dipped low in the sky as Clara pulled into her driveway, thoughts swirling like the leaves outside. Maybe this was the moment her life began to change. But as she entered the house, that spark of hope was quickly doused by the grim reality of her mother's condition. Would she have to sacrifice this newfound connection just to survive? With each step deeper into her home, Clara faced a decision that could alter everything. Would she embrace the unexpected solace of friendship, or would she remain boxed in by her fears? The choice loomed large, and she knew she had to confront it before time slipped away. Clara stood in the dim light of the living room, her heart heavy with the weight of her mother's illness. The familiar clutter, a pile of bills on the small table, and the faded family photos on the wall grew more suffocating by the minute. She knew Sam would be waiting for her. He always did, eyes wide with hope that things might improve. She swallowed hard, forcing her emotions back where they belonged. Clara? Sam's voice broke the silence. He appeared at the doorway, his tiny frame wrapped in a well-worn t-shirt. Is Mom okay? Yeah, buddy. She mustered a reassuring smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Just taking her meds. How about some cartoons before lunch? Sam's face lit up, but she could see the worry gnawing at him. Okay, he replied slowly, heading back into the living room. Clara followed, her heartbeat echoing the turmoil inside. She knew they had to talk about money soon. Their mother's hospital bills weren't going to wait for a more convenient moment. The screen flickered to life with animated characters. Clara's mind drifted back to Thomas. What would he do in her shoes? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. She couldn't burden him with her troubles. Still, she felt that flicker of connection he offered whenever they spoke, the hint of understanding that could light her way through this darkness. She pulled out her phone, staring at the screen. There it was again, his offer to help. What a strange notion. She barely knew him, yet somehow, he was willing to share the load. Why? With a shaking breath, she typed a simple message. Hey Thomas, I was thinking about what you said earlier, about helping. It's kind of hard for me to ask, but I might need a little guidance on something important. Her pulse quickened as she hit send. What would he say? Would he think she was just another charity case? Though doubt gnawed at her, Clara pushed the thought away. Maybe, just maybe, accepting help could open a door to something better. Time seemed to stretch as she waited, the sounds of laughter from the television drowning out her racing heart. Just as she began to doubt herself, her phone buzzed. It was Thomas. Of course. I'm here if you need anything, Clara. Let me know when you want to talk more. Relief flooded through her, but it was quickly overshadowed by a fresh wave of uncertainty. What did anything mean? Should she take him up on it? As she wrestled with her thoughts, Sam jumped up, clutching his toy proudly. Clara, look. I made a castle. Her heart melted at his enthusiasm. That is amazing, Sam. Can I be the queen? Yeah, you can be the best queen ever. His laughter filled the room, and for a moment, the weight on Clara's shoulders lifted. Maybe this was what she needed to fight for, a safe haven for Sam, a world of imagination amid harsh realities. After lunch, Clara called the hospital to check on their mother. As she listened to the nurse on the line, words before her started to fade into a murmur. It was so easy to get lost in the monotony of medical jargon. But when the nurse mentioned a possible treatment, a spark ignited in Clara's chest. Hope. She couldn't let it slip away again. Sam, pack your things. We're going to see Mom after this, she said suddenly, determination flooding her voice. Really? His eyes widened with excitement. Yeah, really. As she drove him to the hospital, thoughts swirled around her mind. Could she share her burden with Thomas? Traveling into the unknown felt daunting. Yet, here she was, ready to re-engage in the fight for her family. Clara's heart raced as they neared the hospital, frightened yet eager. Would this effort help her mother or push Thomas further away? The moment was nigh, and with hope burning brighter, she wondered if reaching out would offer the strength she needed or if it would all come crashing down. Just hold on, Mom. I'll figure it out. But as she prepared to step into the unfamiliar corridors of the hospital, a thought echoed in her mind. What if she discovered that accepting help meant gaining more than just support? It could mean finding herself? The hospital lobby buzzed with an unsettling energy, a mix of frantic family members and busy staff. Clara tightened her grip on Sam's hand as they walked through the double doors, the air thicker with anticipation and fear. Every step seemed heavier, laden with unspoken worries. Are we really going to see Mom? Sam looked up at her with those innocent, hopeful eyes. Clara met his gaze, a smile forming but not quite reaching her heart. Yeah, we are. Let us go find her. They moved deeper into the building, passing bright posters of smiling nurses and cheerful patients that did little to ease the weight on her chest. Clara could feel Sam's small fingers tightening around hers, sensing the gravity of the situation. He was too young to fully understand, but she knew he could feel the unease hovering around them like a dark cloud. When they reached the room, Clara paused, hesitating. The walls felt close, the door like a barrier between her fears and the reality that lay within. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, revealing their mother lying frail and pale against the stark white sheets. The beeping of the machines felt almost relentless. Mom, Sam exclaimed, darting toward the bed, his face lighting up in a moment of overwhelming joy. It was a stark contrast to the thin, tired smile that slowly crept onto their mother's face. Hey, my little prince, her mother croaked, her voice raspy but filled with warmth. Clara felt her heart swell, masked by the sorrow of seeing her so fragile. Are you feeling better? Sam asked, the concern in his voice sending pangs of guilt through Clara's heart. I'm working on it, their mother replied, squeezing his tiny hand in reassurance. Clara watched, slightly detached as they talked, her thoughts spiraling into the looming reality of medical bills, decisions, and the unforeseen future. After a moment, she stepped forward, her own heart fluttering. Hi, Mom. The words felt both normal and shocking, surrounded by the unease threading through her. The smile dimmed slightly as their mother noticed Clara's haggard expression. You've been taking care of everything, haven't you? Clara nodded, tears pricking her eyes. It's okay, Mom. We're in this together. As they chatted, the atmosphere lightened a bit, but Clara could feel the gravity of their situation sneaking back in. It was that heavy dread of the unknown, gnawing at her like a persistent whisper that wouldn't let her be. What were they going to do if the treatments didn't work? Once they left the room and settled into the waiting area, Sam's chatter gave Clara a moment to breathe, to gather herself. But the moment was fleeting. Her phone buzzed again, and the familiar name sprang to life on the screen. Thomas. Hey, just checking in. How is everything? Clara felt warmth radiate through her, an unexpected flicker of comfort. It was just a simple message, but it felt like a lifeline thrown at the right moment. She hesitated. Would sharing her fears with him make her stronger or leave her vulnerable? Things are rough, but I'm managing. Just visited my mom. She hit send and immediately felt exposed, as if she had peeled away a layer of herself to the outside world. A few moments passed before Thomas replied. I'm here if you want to talk, or even if you don't. You don't have to go through this alone. Could she really lean on someone else? Someone she barely knew? But the longing for support was undeniable. Clara's heart raced at the thought of opening up, of letting someone in. Let us find a quiet place, she decided, turning to Sam. I need a quick break. Can we grab some juice? He nodded, oblivious to the heavy decision weighing down Clara. As Sam dashed off, the open text thread with Thomas stared at her, an invitation for connection. Just when Clara thought she couldn't bear the burden of everything alone, she felt the stirrings of hope again, as fragile as it was. But was she ready to share that burden with Thomas? To let him see the vulnerability behind her mask? With uncertainty pooling in her chest, she typed back, maybe we can talk soon. Waiting for his response, Clara glanced back toward the hospital corridor. In that moment, she realized she was standing on the edge of a choice. Accept help, embrace connection. Would it bring her closer to stability or just tangle her in more chaos? The buzzing of her phone broke her thoughts again. This time, it was a message from Thomas. I'm here when you're ready, Clara. Just let me know. Take your time. The words hung in the air like a promise, sweet yet daunting. Clara turned towards the main entrance, heart racing. How could a simple decision hold so much weight? What would happen when she finally admitted how lost she truly felt? The next moments could change everything. The juice bar was small and suffocatingly bright, a contrast to the heavy mood that shadowed Clara. Bright colors and enthusiastic staff buzzed around her, but she felt like she was swimming through thick fog. Sam was busy picking out his favorite flavors, eyes wide with excitement. She couldn't help but smile at him, but it was a weary smile. As she watched him, a gentle tug of guilt twisted inside her. Why should I be worried? Sam didn't fully understand the situation. He was too young for this weight. But how could she protect him from the truth, when the truth felt like a storm brewing in the back of her mind? Can I have strawberry and orange, please? Sam's cheerful voice snapped her out of her thoughts and drew Clara's attention back from that dark corner of her mind. Of course, buddy. She leaned over the counter, exchanging a friendly grin with the barista, but her mind was swirling with a mixture of dread and hope. How could she keep everything together when she was falling apart inside? Stepping aside, she pulled out her phone again, staring at Thomas's last message. She tapped her fingers against it nervously. Maybe she had overstepped by reaching out. Maybe he didn't actually want to help. What if he saw how fragile she was and walked away? Here you go, Sam exclaimed, clenching 2 cups in his tiny hands. The bright colors of the juices stood out, a stark contrast to the emotions swirling in her chest. As they moved to a quieter corner, Sam happily slurped on his drink, oblivious to the chaos around them. Clara couldn't shake off that feeling of impending doom. The uncertainty of their future gnawed at her like a relentless dog. Would her mom get better? Would they be able to support themselves through this? Clara. Sam's voice cut through her desperate thoughts. She paused, looking down at him. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetie, she said softly. Just thinking. I like when you think. He smiled, and for a moment, she felt her heart lift just enough to fight back the weight pressing down on her. She ruffled his hair affectionately. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with another message from Thomas. How about we talk now? I'm free if you are. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Was this the moment she would take? The tipping point where she could either drown her fears in uncertainty or reach out for help. Can I borrow your phone for a sec? She asked Sam, her voice faltering more than intended. He blinked, handing it over without a second thought. Sure, but hurry back. I want to drink without waiting, okay? Clara felt a wave of guilt wash over her, but this was for him too. She needed to do this, not just for herself, but for Sam's sake. Quickly, she typed a response to Thomas, her fingers shaking. Okay, let us talk. Almost instantly, her phone buzzed back. Excitement laced with worry jumped in her chest. Great. Meet me at the cafe down the street in 10? 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. It was only a short walk, but standing still made her anxious. It was a simple arrangement, but the weight of it loomed large. How was she going to share everything? Her worries, fears, her exhaustion? Sam, Clara called out, putting on a brave smile as she turned back to him. Ready to head back? Can we take the long way? His wide eyes sparkled with mischief, and seeing him so lively made her heart soften amidst all the turmoil. She nodded, taking his hand and leading him out of the juice bar. They strolled. Sam pointed out the little things: a dog playing fetch, colorful flowers swaying in the breeze. It was as if his innocence was an antidote to her worries. But the thought of opening up to Thomas didn't fade. What if sharing her experiences, her burdens, created a deeper connection? What if it didn't? The fear of the unknown struck her again like a thundercloud overhead. The cafe came into view, and she felt a wave of apprehension ripple through her. She took a deep breath, confident she was about to take a step forward. But would this choice change everything, or lead her down a path of more uncertainty? As they approached the entrance, Clara's heart thudded in her chest. It was the moment she had been waiting for, but also the one that terrified her most. And just as she reached for the door handle, a crack of thunder echoed above them. Was this sign a warning, or the beginning of breaking free from the storm? Clara hesitated, her hand hovering above the cafe door, the crack of thunder feeling like an echo of the storm brewing inside her. She glanced at Sam, who looked up at her, his face bright and trusting. His innocence felt like a fragile glass ball, and she didn't want to shatter it with her burdens. Maybe it's just a storm, she whispered to herself, trying to dismiss the ominous feeling swirling within her. Are we going in, Clara? Sam's voice cut through her thoughts, filled with eagerness that made her heart ache. Yeah, just one sec, Clara replied, forcing a smile despite the clenching in her chest. She took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation and uncertainty. What if Thomas didn't really want to listen? What if he couldn't understand her fears? The weight of those questions pressed down on her, but she couldn't let that stop her anymore. Sam deserved more than just a mother who was drowning in worry. Let us go, she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. She pushed the door open, letting the familiar jingle of the bell above greet them. A rush of warm air enveloped them, contrasting with the storm brewing outside. The cafe was buzzing, a welcoming hum of laughter and clinking cups. And for a moment, Clara felt wrapped in the comforting embrace of everyday life. Sam rushed ahead, eager to find their usual spot by the window. As they settled in, Clara's gaze swept over the faces around them. There were couples leaning in close, friends sharing secrets over steaming mugs, and baristas flashing bright smiles while they worked. In that moment, she felt different, like an outsider lingering on the edge of a safe world she hadn't embraced in a long time. Clara, Sam called, pulling her out of her thoughts. Look, I can see the park from here. Can we go after we finish? His excitement was infectious, and she couldn't help but smile. Of course, buddy. We'll go to the park. Just give me 1 minute, okay? Okay. He slurped his drink enthusiastically, oblivious to the fact that his mom's mind was already racing ahead to the conversation that was about to unfold. Just then, her phone buzzed once more. It was a message from Thomas. I'm here. Where are you? Clara swallowed hard, biting her bottom lip. This was at the moment she had been avoiding. I'll be right back, Sam, she said, forcing herself to stand. She straightened her shoulders, trying to push back the tide of nerves rising within her. Walking towards the entrance, she spotted Thomas seated at a small table against the wall, a hesitant smile breaking across his face as she approached. He looked up from his phone, a sense of warmth radiating from him that made her feel a little less alone, a little less lost in the chaos of her emotions. Hey, he said, his voice inviting. Hey. Clara's heart raced as she took a seat across from him, reminding herself that she had asked for this. She needed it. Sorry if I seemed a bit abrupt in my last message. I just wanted to make sure you're okay, he explained, concern etching his features. I appreciate it, Clara replied, and silence enveloped them for a moment. The noise of the cafe faded into the background, and she felt the weight of his gaze on her, urging her to speak. She started, hesitating. How did she begin? With the hardest part? Or start with something lighter? It's been tough at home. My mom, she's not doing well. The words bubbled out before she could stop them, the truth spilling into the air like a dam breaking. She could see the empathy flicker in Thomas's eyes, and with each breath, her resolve began to strengthen. I just feel lost, she continued, voice shaky but growing steadier with each word. Like I'm constantly trying to stay afloat, but each wave just pulls me deeper. I just don't know how to handle it all. Thomas nodded, his expression softening. You're not alone, Clara. Whatever you need to face this, I'm here, he said firmly. As she looked into his eyes, a glimmer of hope ignited in her chest, battling against the storm she had been holding back. But as comforting as his words were, the reality of her situation loomed large. Would accepting help really change anything? Would it make her feelings any less overwhelming? Just as those thoughts churned in her mind, the cafe door swung open, a gust of wind rushing in, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of rain. Clara's stomach tightened. The storm outside mirrored her inner conflict, and in that moment, she realized she was not just facing her fears. She was standing at the edge of something new, something unknown. "Clara, I need you to trust me." Thomas's voice broke through her spiral, but before she could process his words, the lights flickered ominously above them. What should she do next? Dive deeper into this new chance, or retreat into the comfort of her solitude? The stakes were rising, and just as Clara felt herself pulled into the current, a loud crash of thunder sounded, shaking the very foundation of the cafe. Would she be brave enough to take the leap and open her heart to another? Or would she close herself off and let the storm drive her back into isolation? Clara took a deep breath, the cold air stinging her lungs as she felt the energy crackle between her and Thomas. The flickering lights sent a shiver down her spine, and honestly, it felt like the whole world was in a state of climax, a moment pregnant with possibility. "Clara, I need you to trust me," Thomas said again, his voice steady, but his eyes reflected a fear of his own. It was an odd comfort, knowing someone else was also battling inner storms. She fiddled with her cup, the ceramic warm against her fingertips. Trust, the word was heavy with implications, but she had to try. "I guess I have to start somewhere, don't I?" He nodded, his expression grave yet hopeful. "You don't have to go through this alone. Whatever you're feeling, it's valid. You have every right to be upset and scared." Clara wanted to tear up, to laugh, to shake her head in disbelief. How could it be this simple? Just admit she was scared? Yet, the enormity of that task weighed her down. It's more than I can explain. I feel like I'm drowning." "I get it. But you're stronger than you think. You've been managing so much for Sam." His mention of her son tugged at her heart deeper. "Let me help you lift some of that weight." The rain began to drum against the windows, louder and sharper, as if marking the conflicts brewing inside her. Outside, the sky flashed with brilliant streaks of lightning, illuminating her troubling thoughts in stark contrast. Would Sam still love her if he knew how frail she felt? Would he see her as just another adult wrapped in their own turmoil? She opened her mouth to respond, but the words tangled in her throat. Just then, the door swung open again, and a gust of wind swept through the cafe, swirling the scent of wet pavement and fresh earth. In walked a young girl soaked to the bone, eyes wide with apprehension. "Mom!" she cried, scanning the cafe frantically. Clara's heart clenched. The look on that girl's face mirrored her own childhood memories, longing and fear tangled together. Thomas stood, concern flickering across his features. "Do you want me to?" he started, but Clara shook her head, knowing she needed to hear that small voice of hope. She slid out of her chair toward the girl. "Are you okay?" Clara crouched down to her level, gently squeezing the child's shoulder. The girl blinked, lip trembling. "I can't find my mom. It's all right. Let us look together." "What is her name?" Clara's voice became soothing, grounding. "We can find her." As they traversed the cafe, calling out for the girl's mother, Clara felt a spark more than a flicker in her heart. It was a desire to connect, to share warmth instead of retreating. Maybe trusting wasn't so scary. It could bring people together. Suddenly, Clara remembered Sam. "Just a second, okay? I need to grab my son." She dashed back to their table, where Sam was animatedly slurping his drink. "Sam, I need your help for a moment. There's a girl who lost her mom. Can you come?" "Cool. Sure." Sam jumped up, excitement bubbling. Together, they made their way to the girl, who was still anxiously scanning the room. "Hey, this is my son Sam. We're going to help you find your mom," Clara assured her. As they moved through the cafe, calling out names and sharing laughter, it felt like a song with layers of joy and fear colliding. Clara began to lose herself in the moment, pushed by the innocence and eagerness of her son and the little girl. But as they finally found the girl's mother just a table away, celebrating their success, Clara's heart pulsed with a different rhythm. Though she was still grappling with storms inside, she also sensed the embers of hope igniting. It was more than just the search for a lost mother. This felt like a turning point. For herself, for Sam. The world outside was still raging, yet inside the cafe, a new calm began to settle. Turning back to Thomas, she hesitated, then locked eyes with him. Maybe I can do this." Let us talk. Just then, another crash of thunder reverberated through the cafe, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she felt a newfound strength to face whatever was coming her way. Would she be able to keep trusting? As the storm raged on outside, Clara knew that the winds of change had begun to blow through her life. But would it be enough to clear the path ahead? Clara's heart raced as she returned to Thomas, the thrum of the cafe and the howling storm outside merging into a single, chaotic symphony. The humid air murmured promise, yet the weight of the world still clung to her shoulders. "I'm ready, Thomas," she breathed, a tremor of resolve stealing through her unease. She didn't want to speak too soon, afraid the strength she had just found might slip away like sand through her fingers. But the look in Thomas's eyes brought a flicker of determination. "Let us find a quiet spot," he said, motioning toward a corner by the window. The pounding rain provided a rhythmic backdrop as they settled into the small, intimate space. Clara crossed her arms, trying to ward off the chill that emanated not just from the weather, but from the uncertainty brewing inside her. "Tell me what you're feeling," he urged, studying her with a caring intensity. It felt daunting to share, but something about Thomas made her heart whisper that it might finally be safe to unload the weight. "I feel lost," she admitted, her voice barely rising above the sound of rain. "Every day I wake up and fight for Sam, but I don't know what I'm fighting for. Sometimes I can't even see the finish line." His gaze softened. "You are fighting for both of you, Clara. But it's okay to admit that the journey is exhausting. What about your dreams? What do you want?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy yet liberating. She hesitated, her thoughts swirling like the raindrops outside. "I want to be a good mom. I want Sam to have a better life, one not burdened by my struggles." "And what about you?" He pressed gently. "What do you want for Clara?" For a long moment, she remained silent, her heart racing at the thought. That question, so simple yet profound, felt like a mirror to her soul. She could barely remember the last time someone asked her that. Finally, she let out a shaky breath, realizing how far she had drifted from her own desires. "I used to want to be an artist," Clara confessed, a smile tugging at her lips despite the sadness. "Painting the world as I saw it. But life pushed me down a different path. Why not reignite that spark?" Thomas suggested, his voice steady, unwavering. "You can still paint. It doesn't have to be grand or anything. Just start small again." Tears threatened to spill as Clara felt warmth wash over her. "I don't know if I can, Thomas. What if I fail?" Or, he countered, leaning in closer, "What if you soar?" His words resonated with something deep within her, a flicker of courage breaking through the clouds of doubt. Just then, Sam's laughter rang out from the cafe's main area, mingling with the rain. It was pure, unfiltered joy. Clara's heart swelled, realizing he was her reason to keep trying. "He deserves a mother who is whole, not just surviving." "And you deserve a life filled with passion," Thomas replied gently. "It's okay to have dreams again." Clara's heart pulsed with possibility, each beat bringing her closer to hope. Yet, just as she felt the weight of despair begin to lift, the cafe door swung open with a loud bang. The storm had intensified, wind howling, and a small group hurried in, drenched and panicked. "Please, we need help. There's an accident outside," one of them yelled, breathless. Clara exchanged a worried glance with Thomas. A new wave of urgency flooded the atmosphere as people rose to assist, but Clara felt rooted to the spot. She hadn't just begun to find herself. She hadn't even grasped what trusting herself truly meant. Now, with the world pushing outside again, Clara had to decide. Should she leap into the chaos and help, or take a moment for herself to find that spark? The storm raged outside, a reminder that the path to clarity was often tumultuous. But one thing was certain. Something inside her had shifted. Was she ready to face the storm, not just for Sam, but for herself too? Clara's heart thudded in her chest as she stood, gripped by conflicting urges. The frantic voices of the newcomers pierced through the thunder, mingling with the patter of rain on the cafe roof. She felt the warmth of Thomas's presence beside her, anchoring her even as chaos surrounded them. "What should we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, uncertainty lacing her words. Thomas's eyes, filled with unwavering steadiness, locked onto hers. "We help. That's what we do when people are in trouble." His confidence flickered a spark within her, igniting something that had dimmed for too long. Taking a deep breath, she nodded, ready to step out into the storm. It was time to face the chaos head-on, not just for Sam's sake, but for her own. As they approached the group, Clara noticed the pale faces and trembling bodies, the urgency palpable like electricity in the air. "What happened?" she asked, her voice now stronger, more assured. "There was a car accident. A truck flipped over down the street, and there are still people trapped inside," one woman cried, her wet clothes clinging to her skin, shivering from both fear and cold. Without another word, Clara and Thomas sprang into action. They gathered blankets and the few medical supplies the cafe had. Clara's heart crashed against her ribs as she realized this was her chance to feel alive, to make a difference. The wind howled outside, but she didn't hesitate this time. She rushed through the door, rain drenching her instantly. Thunder rumbled like an ominous drumline as she squared her shoulders against the storm. Every droplet felt like a reminder she was alive, and she was here to help. As they approached the scene, the smell of gasoline mixed with rain permeated the air. Clara's instincts kicked in. She instinctively focused on helping someone who was yelling for assistance. "Stay calm. We're here to help," she shouted over the roar of the storm, her voice pushing through the chaos around her. The sight made her stomach turn. A truck lay on its side, its metal frame twisted and mangled. But somehow, that didn't deter her. The sounds of moans and cries pulled her closer. Thomas was by her side, guiding their effort, coordinating with a few brave souls who had also stepped out of the cafe. They worked together like a well-oiled machine, trying to free those trapped inside. As Clara knelt by the truck, she felt an undercurrent of fear mingle with resolve. One face appeared above the edge, panic-widened eyes met hers. "Please, help me," the man gasped, voice trembling, but there was a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I'm here," she yelled back, her heart swelling. In that moment, she realized this was why she had been fighting so hard to connect, to be human, to feel like she mattered. The journey ahead would be uncertain, but in this moment, she was part of something bigger. She wasn't just an artist or a mother. She was a lifeline. As Thomas and Clara worked tirelessly, adrenaline surged through her veins, driving out the remnants of doubt. Together, they grasped the situation, each pull of debris a step toward safety. Clara caught a glimpse of Sam through the stormy haze, watching from the edge, a small figure framed in the doorway of the cafe. His wide eyes reflected both concern and awe. In that instant, her heart cracked wide open. "Mom," he shouted, waving frantically. In that moment of horror and urgency, Clara felt her life realign. Sam needed to see her fighting, alive, taking chances. She needed to ignite that flame for him, the way Thomas had sparked it in her. But just as she felt herself begin to soar, the ground below shifted. A low growl of thunder rumbled, and Clara's heart sank as the world lurched. The lurking danger was far from over. What other dark twists could await them in the storm? Would they all make it through? And what would that mean for Clara's newfound path? With the storm clashing around them, Clara's adrenaline surged as she pushed through both fear and uncertainty. It wasn't just about making it through to the other side anymore. It was about embracing each moment, living fully for her son and for herself. She glanced at Thomas, who was immersed in his own fight, directing others and serving as a beacon of strength. "Over here. We need to lift this," Clara shouted, rallying the small band of helpers. They formed a human chain, voices of determination echoing across the chaos, bolstered by the realization that they had become each other's lifeline. "Mom, I'm scared." Sam's shout broke through her focus. She turned to see him, eyes wide, legs planted as if glued to the ground. Panic sparked in her heart. "Sam, stay inside," she called back, but even as she spoke, she saw the worry etched on his face, and it felt like a dagger to her heart. He was watching as his mother stepped into danger, but she also saw something else, the flicker of admiration in his eyes. Swallowing her own fear, Clara turned back to the task at hand, determined to show Sam the unwavering strength of love. "Together, we've got this," she urged to the others, and as if her words lifted them, they moved with newfound determination. Clara's hands dug into the debris, the rain slick against her fingers, but her resolve shone clear. Each tug, each pull, felt like a step toward reclaiming her own strength, like she was finally channeling all the chaos within her into something constructive. Finally, with a collective effort, the trapped man was freed, gasping as he emerged from the wreckage, the community's energy feeding his newfound breath of life. Cheers erupted, blending harmoniously with the rain around them, and for a moment the storm dimmed into the background as relief washed over them. "See," Thomas said, a grin breaking across his rain-splattered face. "One life saved. That's a huge victory." Clara beamed back at him, feeling a pull in her chest, an affirmation of everything she had yearned for. It was about more than just survival. It was about fighting for connection, about stepping into the light rather than shying away into the shadows of worry. But just as she felt the tide shift, nature unleashed a deafening crack of thunder, shaking the earth beneath them. Instinctively, Clara felt a rush of protectiveness mixed with fear. Sam was still watching, helpless in the doorway of the cafe. "Get back," she shouted to him. But it was too late. A sudden crash came from the truck, and within moments she watched a beam of metal teetering dangerously before coming down hard, spilling into a cascade of noise and chaos. Her heart dropped as emotions washed over her, but then she spotted a figure rushing towards Sam. It was Thomas, sprinting like an arrow, fear fueling his speed as he grabbed Sam and yanked him back just in time. Their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment, something solidified between them, an unspoken bond, a shared understanding. "Clara," Thomas shouted, his voice strained. They were all in this together, the three of them, carving a path through the storm. "Now," Clara yelled, suddenly fueled with urgency and clarity. "We need to work together." She gestured to the others, a mutual understanding forming in the chaos. As they moved, rain-soaked and straining against the odds, Clara found herself pounding through the fear to reach something liberating. She was ready to take a leap and trust again. Together, they pulled the remnants of the truck far enough to aid others trapped inside, racing against time and nature's resolve. As the storm raged on, Clara saw Sam peering from behind Thomas, eyes wide but no longer filled with fear. Instead, a proud grin crept across his face. "Mom, you're amazing," he shouted, and Clara felt the warmth of his admiration envelop her like a comforting blanket. The walls she had built began to crumble, replaced with pure, honest courage. With each passing moment, Clara realized she was not just fighting for survival. She was forging a life that could shine beyond the shadows, the life she envisioned for Sam, where hope marinated in the spirit of resilience. As she worked alongside Thomas and their community, Clara rediscovered the artist within, the raw, passionate soul that had been desperate to break free. "Thank you," she breathed to Thomas between tasks, gratitude overwhelming her. "For everything." His smile held a light that cut through the storm. "You're not alone anymore, Clara, and neither am I." The final weight of the day crashed like lightning, and Clara realized something monumental. This wasn't just a fleeting connection, but the start of a journey that carried memories, hardships, and hope. Together, they weather the storm, growing stronger with each passing moment, love intertwining their destinies. And standing by her son, she embraced the realization: life, with all its storms, could also reveal beauty, connection, and a sense of belonging like never before. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara felt her soul breathe anew, knowing that even amidst life's heavy rains, they could always rise and thrive together. Now, as this powerful transformation reaches its fitting conclusion, I urge you, if you felt uplifted by Clara's journey, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep inspiring others. Don't wait not even one more second. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your engagement truly means the world.